quite rare nowadays. How do you feel about rock and roll in general? Do you think that's something that's lacking there, a belief in people's own views?
Well, it has been. I mean, I've always felt like a duty to be more than everyone else was, because it seemed like nobody took what they were seriously enough. I think if you really care about what you do, then it's not just your music, it's also image in your videos and your photographs, and
yeah,
I take each one just as serious as the other.
Antichrist Superstar, it's kind of the similarities and the differences in the name and in the concept of the album as such. Just to talk about the balance between the two that you went into recording the album with, the name Antichrist Superstar.
Well, the record is really a biography. It's my story from beginning to end, and I find myself in the middle of it right now. But it's about, at an earlier age, not really having faith in myself, trying to find faith in something else like God, and realizing, and being very bold and realizing that I was told so many lies over the years that I began to resent that, and when I became Marilyn Manson, that's when I started to believe in myself. The end of the story is really where it goes from here, you know.
Well, you talked a bit about the past. I mean, like you say, you addressed the past on the album, but you've also said that you openly addressed the future as well, and predicted things that you think will happen. Is it happening?
So far, everything I've said has happened. I mean, as far as the band's rise to power, and you know, the trouble that comes with that power, you know, dealing with whether or not you can control it or if it consumes you, whether or not you know, you have faith in mankind and you want to try and open their minds, or if you just become selfish and you'd rather see it all destroyed. Yeah. That's really the struggle of Antichrist Superstar on the album.
Must be a difficult balance the whole way down the line. People have constantly talked about you as saying that, you know, you talk about doomsday and the apocalypse, which is true, but surely you must have an interest in humankind to be fighting with an album like this, to try and put forward a different view.
Well, that's the two endings that I see before me. Whether the apocalypse is people killing off their old ways of thinking and becoming individuals, and the world becoming a better place, or an actual apocalypse and everything is destroyed. But an actual, if you think about it hard enough, the world is really just what you have inside your head.
Yeah.
If you wanted to destroy the world, it's as easy as killing yourself. So, I mean, all these things were things that I was faced with when writing the record, so it's a lot of stuff for me to think about.
You've addressed this in the past with your albums, Portrait of an American Family, and with the EP Smells Like Children as well. You know, you've questioned a lot of beliefs and talked about that, things like morality and family values, and even the media and so forth. I think on Antichrist Superstar, you know, you got somewhere into finding some answers as opposed to just asking questions.
Absolutely. I think Antichrist Superstar definitely provided an answer. Instead of just saying, this is what I don't believe in, I said, this is what I do believe in. And instead of saying, okay, everybody, we've had enough of listening to this, I said, well, now it's time to listen to this. And I've also pointed out the similarities in that by people, the dangers of putting a lot of power, you know, and belief in a rock star is just as dangerous as putting it in God or something else.
Knowing your position as leader of the band and saying what you say?
It's hard to say, you know, looking back. I just usually do what feels right, you know, I don't think about it that much.
In the recording of the album, I mean, it's such an intense sounding album, and it's pretty common knowledge that studios can be quite sterile places to try and create. How did you guys, you and Trent Reznor and the crew that you worked with the band, how did you go about sort of creating an environment to convey that intensity onto a deck tape?
Well, we went through a lot of things that almost seem unimaginable to some people. Some things I couldn't even describe because it wouldn't make sense to people. But we did pay a lot of careful attention to environment, and I mean, most of my inspiration came from dreams, so there was a lot of experiments with sleep deprivation, to the point where the longer you stayed up, when you would fall asleep, your dreams would be more intense.
Yeah.
And things of that nature.
You're lucky you can remember your dreams. I know a few people that can't actually remember their dreams. Otherwise you probably wouldn't be making an album if you drew a lot from your dreams.
Right. Yeah, but I like to write when I wake up, so.
That whole sleep deprivation and the kind of, way that you approach the album, I believe you actually also dabbled around in substances and stuff to try and get different areas of your mind, open up different areas of your mind. But the times when, even as a recording artist or as Marilyn Manson, you were kind of scared at what you discovered in yourself as well, and the things you addressed?
Absolutely. I think that comes out on the album too. There's certain moments on the record where, on a song like Dried Up, where the realization of you're not paying attention to what you're trying to say to yourself. I'm trying to, my subconscious is trying to tell me one thing, but I'm ignoring it, and finally realizing that, and it comes into a song. Or a song like Kinderfeld, where I realized that some of the things that I disliked in my childhood, things that I've evolved into, and things like that. So
yeah, your music seems to kind of have this kind of fierce reaction against repression. I suppose the repression that you felt when you were younger. Was it difficult first addressing those issues in you as well, looking back on some of the things that have manifested into Marilyn Manson now?
I don't think my childhood affected me any more than anyone else's would. I've just, rather than keeping it inside or letting it, be something that weakens me, I've just used it as an expression, and, maybe something that other people can relate to.
A lot of the music that's been created in New Orleans, a lot of the albums that bands have recorded have been really dark. It's obviously, it's quite well known that New Orleans has a really sort of dark atmosphere about it. And I mean, what was it about it that was attractive to you, specifically New Orleans as a place to record an album?
Well, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I went there.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very miserable place, and I think it brings out the dark elements in everybody. It's the temperature is very relentless. It's very humid and hard to breathe. And there's a joke in New Orleans that there's two things there: bars and graveyards, and that people just go there to die.
Drink or die, or both.
That's really a pretty fair assessment of the town. So it was something that I felt proud to have lived through and got out of, more than I would never want to be a resident of that place. It was kind of a place to visit and learn from.
Yeah. Your relationship with Trent Reznor has been going quite a few years, I think like 6 years. You guys have known each other now. As a collaborator, as someone who works with you on your music, has he sort of developed, has his role become greater in that time, through your first album right through to now?
What it did on Antichrist Superstar, it kind of developed and came to a climax, because I think we both realized that it was the last time we would probably work together. You
were actually looking at other producers at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, we were thinking about it. We realized that he knew what we wanted, and we were friends, so we thought we would do that. But it really can be trying on friendships when you work so long together. But we're happy with how everything came out. But so
it's quite an intense recording process. It was hard work.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so.
How long did you guys actually spend in New Orleans recording the album?
About 6 months.
So it's quite a long time. Was it really focused the whole time to give yourself a bit of breathing space, creative outside of the recording process?
It was a little bit of both. It was, in and out. Chaos and control.
Playing live on stage is where your kind of reputation is really manifested. I mean, do you actually enjoy the stage more than the studio?
Probably. I think there's great things about both, but I think performing is probably the best way to show people your music, because it's not just to one person. There's the interaction of a lot of people, and the visceral feeling of when the music, you can actually feel it in your body. I think that it's more powerful that way.
Portrait of an American Family sounds a lot liver to me sound-wise than Antichrist Superstar as far as a band putting their songs to tape. So obviously you spent a bit of time, 6 months, making Antichrist Superstar and working a lot more in the studio, making a more technical sounding album. How much of a headache was that to try and sort of reproduce live on stage, having come from a live background?
It actually worked out pretty well. I mean, we had never, even though we're, notoriously live band, we've never really written our songs as a band. And this album in particular was a different collaboration. It was more between me and my bassist Twiggy, who played nearly all the guitar on the album. So it was a much more comfortable collaboration. We really knew what each other were thinking, and it worked better.
Losing Daisy, during the making of the album, was that a bit of a problem? Was it more of a relief than anything else?
Definitely a sigh of relief.
Was it?
Yeah.
What were the factors leading up to Daisy's departure?
Well, he never took the band very seriously. It was more of a job to him, and that was always an insult to me because I'm very proud of what we do, and I take it very personally. And he didn't really look at it the same way, so I thought that just weakened what the band was about.
Your persona as Marilyn Manson is so strong on record and off record, on stage and so forth. I'm kind of interested to know whether you are at all frightened at times that perhaps your persona will overshadow the power of the music, which is really powerful in itself.
I think in the past there was a danger of that, but I feel like Antichrist Superstar really stands on its own feet. And it's just the beginning, really. I think it wasn't what people were expecting, and our next record won't be either. I think, and the personality of Marilyn Manson is what really drives the music, I think. I think that makes it even more real to people.
You do, and the band seems to be really extreme, based on extremes. Here that you're kind of a fan of balance as well, to try and level the two off, because I'm sure that you have desires to take your music at a more extreme level than perhaps what you do on a record sometimes. I'm sure there's even scratch the surface sometimes. Is it difficult to hold yourself back?
No, I've learned to take things to extreme in different ways. There's also extreme subtlety, and there's extreme vulnerability, and it's not necessarily always hardest and loudest is the best way to express something, and that's something that I'm experimenting more with, is achieving the same kind of feelings but in a way that people wouldn't expect.
You must take an enormous comfort out of the irony that comes from comments in magazines and stuff, though, that like label you as a child molester and a total deviant. It's obviously just people's fears of what you're doing that provide you with those labels, but it must be the only comfort you take from it. Is it seems like very ironic that people have a attitude towards you when you're a rock star, you're a musician.
Yeah, I think Marilyn Manson has always been a mockery of the sensationalism of media. When people think that I'm being sensationalist, I'm mocking that very sensationalism. I think people will always miss a lot of the irony in what I do, but it seems that our fans don't miss it, and that's really all that counts.
Your fans must place quite a bit of pressure on you, though, because you put yourself up on stage and on a pedestal as such and say, this is what I believe, and I'm sure a lot of you out there believe the same things. Does sometimes, how do you sort of behave around the fans that come to you and ask for your advice? Does it feel right all the time, or are there times you just don't want to deal with it?
Well, I really limit my communication with the public to, performing on stage and doing interviews, because I don't think, people would want the answers that I would give them. I think answers are best found when you look for them yourself, and that's what I always tell people. Some
of the bands that have come out of the underground and become mainstream have always talked about, the irony again of playing to crowds that would have smashed them over in school or thrown their lunch at them. Are there times when you've seen your crowd and taken a look at them and thought, God, you guys are the people at school that would have tried to stick my head down a toilet bowl, you know.
It is. There's a part of me that laughs, but it's also, that's the biggest challenge. I think that's quite an accomplishment if you can do that.
Yeah. You seem to me to be following in the same tradition as, say, the Stooges or Kiss, and I know you've been a fan of Kiss, and Alice Cooper and Ziggy Stardust was a blueprint for you as well. In the days when those bands were big, people didn't understand them but didn't necessarily have an adverse reaction to them. Why do you think all of a sudden in the 90s an artist like yourself, who is basically an extension of those artists, is all of a sudden a subject of really negative, attacking reaction, you know? Why do you think that is?
Probably because I haven't comforted them by saying it's just an act or this is just show business, that I told them that this is very real and that they see that other people agree with it. And probably, once again, like you said, it's what they're afraid of because it's themselves, you know. Mm-hmm. They're afraid to admit that they have the same feeling and that I'm not very different from them.
Sometimes you must feel like you were born in the wrong period, that maybe if you came out in the 70s, this would have been, or do you see it as more of a challenge to have been born in the conservative 90s where everything is a crisis?
I think it's more of a challenge. It gives me more reason to want to do what I do.
Yeah. So as far as this touring goes, you're heading off and you're doing another leg of America, and then you're anxious to get back into the studio and begin working on another album?
Well, I carry a studio with me on tour in America, so we've been working on music as we go along.
Is it more of a band thing, or is it still you and Twiggy as far as the writing of the music goes?
It's a little bit of everyone now. I'm I was open to all kinds of different ideas. I've been collaborating with a couple people. With Tricky, I've been doing some stuff with.
He's a New York resident now as well, so.
Yeah, and Billy Corgan and I are doing some stuff together, so trying to open up different avenues.
Yeah, how do you find collaborating with artists like that, having come from such a strict belief in yourself and what you do as an artist?
It's great because you can learn things from other people. I think it's important, especially if they're very different from you.
Hey, listen, thanks for your time. I know you're hungry.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.